Our next guest is somebody that I think is familiar to all of us. So not much of an introduction needed here, but it's my pleasure to invite on stage the techno king of Tesla, the CEO of SpaceX, and the owner of the Boring Company, Neuralink, and Twitter. Please join me in welcoming Elon Musk. Elon, it is really a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining. It was funny. History kind of repeats itself. The last time you spoke with us, my predecessor, Ted Craver, was in the role that I'm in now, and he got to interview you, and so now we're kind of
New Orleans,
repeating history here. And I was reminiscing with you. I think the last time we saw each other, SCE had just done a large deal for storage at one of our substations. So you were kind enough to host me at SpaceX. A great conversation, but I have to admit, it was pretty cool sitting on that mezzanine cafeteria looking down at the rocket fab. So thank you for that. Well, a lot has happened at Tesla over the last few years, and you've gone from delivering 50,000, 50,000 cars in 2015, more than 1.3 million cars last year. That's a whole lot of growth. And so you look back over these last 8 years since we chatted with you last. Is faster or slower adoption than you expected? Any big surprises that you weren't expecting?
Well, it's actually gone reasonably close to what I thought would happen, which is from that point, roughly a 50% year-over-year compound annual growth, which is compliments the Tesla team. It's the fastest growing large manufactured object ever. Which I think the second is like the Model T back in the day. So about 100 years ago. So the Tesla team, I'm very proud to work with them. They've executed incredibly well. And we anticipate something close to 50% growth to continue. So that is very exciting. And it means that we should expect electrification of transport, especially passenger vehicles, quite quickly. Because the normal human instinct is to extrapolate on a linear basis. But really, if you look at the curves, electric vehicles are growing exponentially. So I think that's great news for those in the room. You have a lot of customers. You have a lot of EV customers ready, and soon you'll have many more. Forgive me for waxing on a little bit here, but I sometimes ask, well, when will EVs be most of the cars? The important thing to remember is that you've got 2 billion cars and trucks out there. So, and about 100 million per year new vehicle production, which kind of makes sense. There's sort of a life of about 20 years before a vehicle finally goes to the scrapyard. So even if 100% of electric vehicles were, our new vehicle production was electric today, it would still take 20 years to replace the fleet. So just important to bear that in mind. Percentage of new vehicle production versus total fleet. But I think we're moving quickly to the point where I know probably half of all new vehicles made will be electric. And I think that's likely to happen, I think, before the end of this decade. But then there's still, call it another 20 years beyond that before the fleet really becomes majority EV. So.
Yeah, and it's interesting because as we've done the analysis for California, right, we have an executive order that calls for all new vehicle sales being zero emission by 2035. That's in line with the forecast that we've had in our own scenario analysis. That still puts us at about 3/4 of passenger vehicles being electric in 2045 when the state gets to net zero. I could be off by a little bit, but.
I think the larger point is that the demand for electricity is going to be extremely high.
Yeah.
So I hope this is good news. If you just do the rough back of the envelope math, you need to roughly triple electricity to get to a fully electric economy. roughly a third of power is electric, and then these are very rough numbers. Roughly a third is spent in transportation of various kinds with the fossil fuels or hydrocarbons, and then roughly a third is heating.